Once again demonstrating why he is renowned as the king of the Klondike, Tony Beets has been at the head of the pack this season. Klondike has produced an incredible 2,914 ounces of gold, valued at costing about $77 million. Tony has been in the gold mining industry for decades, so he understands that it's a constant battle against the clock and nature. His workforce has been working hard despite the bad weather to keep production going, but the ground being frozen has made things even more difficult. Meanwhile, Mike, Tony's son, has been in charge of the while Terrell remains at Paradise Hill all hours of the day and night ensuring that gold continues to pour in. His nephew Mike has been in charge of operations at Indian River, where he has recently restored a lot of activity following a week-long shutdown. Was going swimmingly and the pay dirt was coming at a rapid pace, but Tony had a major problem. He was running dangerously low on resources. Tony needed to find a new gold sweet spot, so he used a $2 gold pan to explore the region, looking for clues that could lead him to a potential new pay zone. Following his examination of the ground, he discovered promising results that confirmed the presence of additional gold that needed to be extracted. Without delay, he summoned his crew to start clearing the overburden and preparing a new wash plant pad for Sloot. This new location, which they called Corner Cut, was Tony's next best bet for the season. "Could you kindly send an excavator to the wall cut?"
Thank you.
The 45-ton wash plant at Comeback Cut had to be moved to a new site, which was no easy feat given the frozen, rough terrain. A massive dozer was in charge of the operation and it was struggling to make its way through the tough ground. I had to keep an eye on it to make sure it didn't slide sideways, because once it started heading towards the hole on the left, there was no turning back, no matter how bad the conditions were. Nephew of Tony with the equipment in place, Mike successfully transported the wash plant to its new destination without any major setbacks. The next step was to build up a pay pile. However, just as things were getting going, the team encountered permafir. The ground was nearly impenetrable, halting excavation. Tony's plan had to be put on hold. The only option was to wait for the ground to thaw, but time was running out and each day meant potential revenue loss. No matter how creative the crew got, mining in sub-zero temperatures always leads to inevitable delays. For example, if they don't find any Todd ground, they won't be able to implement any sling to SL plans, meaning that all of the progress made in the spring will be lost until they do. Switching resources to Paradise Hill, where Mike had been tirelessly running the TRL, came with risks like overworking equipment, running out of pay dirt too fast, and leaving the operation vulnerable to unexpected breakdowns. It was a bummer because it meant you'd have to pay right away. It's all a big hassle to wait for this tooth, which is going to take an eternity. Yeah, despite the uncertainty, Tony continued to have faith that his wealth of experience would lead him to a successful outcome. Knowing when to move forward and when to step back for the time being required a great deal of patience. While Tony's operations at Indian River were temporarily halted, the team had to rely on the high-yielding TRL at Paradise Hill and keep a close eye on Indian River. If the ground thawed in time, they could make up for lost gold, but if not, they would need to change their strategy to keep the season profitable. There was a lot of anticipation for the weekly weigh-in because the gold totals would indicate whether his squad was still on pace for a good season. Despite some setbacks, the figures showed that the Beets crew was still in a solid position. Despite the fact that mining at Indian River Solar was halted due to frozen ground, the Comeback Cut still managed to produce $7,566 worth of gold for a total of $190,000. The true success, though, came from Paradise Hill, where the TRL brought in a whopping $37,440 or $936,000. Why you ended up with $1 million. Bosom Mike played a pivotal role in ensuring the family didn't fall behind. The week was still successful, with nearly $1 million in gold from the Terrell alone. Tony, however, was worried that his season could take a major hit if the permafrost kept slowing things down. Schnabel, meanwhile, was hell-bent on reaching 10,000 ounces by season's end. he and his crew worked non-stop to make up for early losses, and they had all 3 of their wash plants operating at full capacity. Fully aware that at Dominion Creek, every drop mattered, the crew was dividing their attention. In the midst of their multi-location processing of top-layer pay dirt at the bridge cut and mining of the first half of the long cut, Parker understood that keeping on track was crucial to reaching his goal, despite the high-risk nature of the method. One of Parker's major moves for the week was to relocate the wash plant rocks. The plan was to put them on a new pad so they could flow directly into an existing pond, which would improve efficiency. However, the team only had 24 hours to finish the move. With the water pump, lens, shaker deck, and conveyors all set up, they were ready to go. The operation encountered a small setback when air got sucked into a pump because of a loose intake hose, but the problem was promptly identified and fixed, allowing Roxon to resume normal operations. Also, new hire Tov Peterson was given more responsibility when he was promoted from operating rock trucks to feeding rocks. He was excited to prove himself, but he encountered a problem almost away, a hopper jam. He tried using a shovel to remove the obstruction on his own, but it persisted. Finally, he summoned foreman Mitch Blassa, who, to his relief, found that a big boulder was to blame. Thanks to TAV's prompt reporting, the problem was quickly resolved, preventing any significant disruption to the weekly way. Parker's findings demonstrated consistent improvement. Roxon's efforts at the long cut generated $222,000.00, Big Red's $82.80 brought in an additional $227,000. Lastly, Bob Adken and while Parker was pleased with the results, he knew they still had a long way to go to reach 10,000 ounces by the end of the season. For Rick Nuss, this season was shaping up to be a make-or-break situation. He had accumulated nearly 1,000 ounces, but his current cut was running dry, so he needed to find richer ground fast or risk ending his season early. Rick shifted his focus to an area close to the edge cut, which is part of the bench cut. The ground was frozen, so he knew he had to be cautious. Instead of diving in headfirst, he dug a test sample. After 5 hours, the results came in. There was some gold in the sample, but it wasn't guaranteed. Despite this, Rick proceeded to remove the overburden. However, as his crew dug deeper, concerns started to arise. The absence of substantial gravel layers suggested that the site might not contain enough gold to warrant mining. While waiting for the results, Rick decided to do another test. If the results weren't strong, he would have to abandon the edge cut completely. The test results were a rude awakening for Rick, who had been looking forward to showing off his personal rock collection, which included a one-of-a-kind Wong rock and some stone sandals, but the sample had only yielded $2.55 Osworth, or around $6,500, far less than the 10 ounces he needed to rationalize continuing with such disappointing results. As the season progressed, every miner encountered tremendous obstacles, leaving Rick with a difficult decision to find a better pay zone or risk having his season end. Parker Schneebel worked non-stop to meet his 10,000-ounce goal, while Tony Beets battled icy ground and struggled to keep operations operating. Klondike is notoriously tough, and there's no guarantee of success, but with millions of dollars at stake, Rick Nes was determined to keep playing. It was crucial to pay attention to each choice, each action, and each gold ounce.